Many breaking news today as we come on the air. Hi and very warm welcome at Amir Shackle 5858. I am Amir Shackle. Following news headlines have been reported by world major English news channels and news agencies. So please watch it.
Today, the UK Prime Minister pushes for US security guarantees for Ukraine at the White House. Also ahead, Star Entertainment shares dive after the embattled casino operator was placed into a trading halt. Police investigating the deaths of Oscar-winning actor Gene Hackman and his wife at their New Mexico home. And the National Film and Sound Archive unearths footage of the first Sydney Mardi Gras on the eve of this year's celebrations. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Melissa McKenna.
Tonight, the investigation underway after the tragic death of legendary actor Gene Hackman and his wife. Their Santa Fe home now the site of an urgent search. Officials describing where they were found in a mudroom and bathroom and why the couple probably died weeks ago. The 911 calls just in tonight and why so far foul play is not suspected, but not off the table. And we'll remember Hackman's remarkable body of work, 2 Academy Awards, and some of the most iconic performances from Superman to the Royal Tenenbaums. The British Prime Minister at the White House with the President as Europe worries about U.S. commitment to Ukraine. President Trump saying he believes Vladimir Putin would abide by a peace deal, and what Keir Starmer told me in my one-on-one. After the rash of collisions and close calls in the skies and at airports, our exclusive interview with the Transportation Secretary, what he says about pilots involved.
If you don't listen to or don't adhere to air traffic control, your pilot's license should be yanked. Hell yes.
Controversial social media star Andrew Tate and his brother fly to Florida, charged with sex trafficking in Europe. But why are they here now? And when this school bus caught fire, the driver jumped into action to get a busload of kids out alive.
This is NBC Nightly News with Les.
If you put your effort and concentration into playing to your potential to be the best that you can be, I don't care what the scoreboard says at the end of the game, in my book, we're going to be winners.
He won Hollywood's highest awards for dramas and comedies. Now Gene Hackman is at the center of a mystery.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News.
Good evening, I'm Maurice Dubois.
I'm John Dickerson. Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, were found dead in their home in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Hackman was 95, his wife, a classical pianist in her mid-60s.
Karen Waugh is following the investigation in Santa Fe.
There's a growing mystery surrounding 2-time Academy Award winner Gene Hackman's death. His body, along with that of his wife's and one of their dogs, a German Shepherd, was found on Wednesday afternoon lying on the floor in separate rooms. They had apparently been dead for some time, according to investigators. At first, the sheriff's department here said there were no signs of foul play. But this morning, we learned from a court document that the deaths are considered suspicious enough to require an investigation. The document reveals that Hackman's body was found in a mudroom and that he may have fallen. Arakawa's body was found in a bathroom. There was a space heater by her head and an open prescription bottle on the countertop with some pills scattered near it. The sheriff's department says there appeared to be no traumatic injuries and no sign of carbon monoxide poisoning.
Tonight, Oscar-winning actor Gene Hackman and his wife found dead in their home. Authorities on the scene. Tonight, the mystery here. Authorities now investigating the suspicious deaths of Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa and one of their dogs. Police say their bodies were discovered in different parts of their home in Santa Fe and that they've been there for some time. Hackman, a two-time Oscar winner, widely considered one of the best actors of his generation.
All you gotta do is pull the trigger, mister.
His career spanning decades, and tonight here we look back, including The French Connection, Hoosiers, and Unforgiven. And of course, the news coming in now in this investigation. Also tonight, the measles outbreak turning deadly in the U.S., the first child to die in a decade. And tonight, reports of cases growing, not just Texas, tonight from New Mexico to New Jersey. Measles was eliminated in the U.S. in 2000, so what's driving this? Some pointing to vaccine skepticism in this country, and tonight the warning from health officials. Tonight, President Trump meeting with the British Prime Minister at the White House, the Prime Minister delivering a letter from King Charles. You'll see the moment here, the Prime Minister saying this has never happened before, a second invitation. It was a warm moment before then trying to persuade Trump to stand by Ukraine. President Zelensky set to visit the White House tomorrow. Tonight, the controversial return, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis saying Florida is not a place where you're welcome, as two brothers, Andrew and Tristan Tate, charged with human trafficking overseas, arrive in Florida. Both are Trump supporters. They were asked today if the president helped get their travel ban lifted, and what President Trump said today about their return. Tonight, after that healthcare CEO was murdered in Manhattan, news tonight, another insurance CEO targeted, a suspect firing multiple times into his home. Tonight, the school bus up in flames. The bus driver is being called a hero, and what that driver did. Outside New York City tonight, dozens of birds found dead. They're now being tested for bird flu. And tonight here, Gene Hackman, in his own words, what he told Diane Sawyer about the closest thing to heaven he experienced.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World.
Well, he's the star of ESPN's First Take, the one and only Stephen A. Smith, my friend. Now looky here. You're now tied with Pothole Pete, AOC, Gretchen Whitmer, and only Gavin Newsom and the Maryland governor and Josh Shapiro have better odds than you do. You have a higher favorability than Pritzker, Andy Bashir, Kamala Harris, Michelle Obama, Raphael Warnock, John Fetterman, Mark Cuban. Okay, no ducking, no dodging, no bobbing and weaving. Are you thinking about running for president?
No, I am not. Number one, all right? I like my life. I like my life. My life is very, very good, very fruitful. Politics is a cesspool. We've all seen that. We've seen what these politicians have gone through. We've seen what President Trump went through over these last several years. Who the hell would want to sign up for that? Now, obviously, being in the presidency is a very, very powerful and influential position. Leader of the free world. We get all of that. We see look at the state of this country. It's an absolute mess. You understand? I have no business being ahead of Josh Shapiro, but this is the part. This is the part that I really, really want to get to show how pathetic of a state of affairs things are right now. I have no business being ahead of Josh Shapiro. I have no business being ahead of Wes Moore. I love both of those guys. I think those guys would be outstanding in their own right. I don't think that there's anybody else out on that list and beyond that has any legitimate case to make for themselves at this particular moment in time for the Democratic Party. I think any voice that has been national has been diluted because of the Trump romp, and I don't want to hear about a 1.5% victory in the election. The man won every swing state. He won about 50 counties, okay? He went up in the black vote, went up in the Latino vote, went up with young voters, okay? There's nothing to say. He won the popular vote. He won the electoral college vote. I don't want to hear anything from the national voices, okay? All the national voices that was out there, and I'm including Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, and that Nick, because he showed up on your show on this channel and debated Ron DeSantis, so he tried to be a national voice. No, I don't put any of them up there right now. And my last comment would be this. I think the fact that I am a candidate for the presidency of the United States of America, according to the polling for the Democratic Party, is the most clear-cut evidence of how pathetic of a state of affairs that exists within the Democratic Party today. I have no business being on that list whatsoever. I am not qualified, but it just shows how Pathetic.
Because
things are at this particular moment in time.
New clarity this Thursday night on when those U.S. tariffs will hit Canada, as the U.S. president slams Ottawa's fight against fentanyl.
Are you not seeing the progress that you wanted in order to...
I don't see it at all.
Ontario's election night. What's at stake with Doug Ford expected to win a third term? The possible discovery of human remains at a Manitoba landfill. The reaction from families.
All I could think about is I want my mom.
A trip to paradise turns miserable.
Everything you can imagine that was coming out both ends.
The hundreds who say they fell ill at a Mexican resort. Plus, the loss of acting legend Gene Hackman.
At the end of the game, in my book, we're going to be winners.
Why police say the deaths of him and his wife are suspicious.
Global National with Donna Friesa.
Good evening and thanks.
Welcome, you're watching Daybreak on France 24. I'm Clemence Voller, and these are your headlines. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is in Washington to convince President Donald Trump that a lasting peace between Ukraine and Russia can only be secured if Kyiv and other European leaders are at the negotiations table with Moscow. A complete failure. Those are the words used in the scathing Israeli internal probe to describe the military's inability to prevent Hamas's October 7th attack, admitting it had underestimated the group's capabilities for years. And imprisoned Kurdish militant leader Abdullah Öcalan calls for his Kurdistan Workers' Party, the PKK, to disarm and disband, a move which could bring about the end to 40 years of conflict between the group and Ankara.
Hello and very good morning to you. This is Sky News at 5 a.m. These are your latest headlines. Royal Assent, Donald Trump accepts an invitation from the King for a second state visit to the UK as the Prime Minister earns this presidential endorsement.
It's a great honour to have Prime Minister Starmer in the Oval Office. It's a very special place and he's a special man.
Some wins then for the Prime Minister, even the prospect of a possible trade deal with the US, but Mr. Trump offered no security guarantees for Ukraine and had this question for the Prime Minister.
This is the greatest alliance for prosperity and security I think the world has ever seen. Whenever necessary, we absolutely backed each other up, and that's...
Could you take on Russia by yourselves?
Well...
President Zelensky stops off in Ireland on the way to his meeting with Mr. Trump as Vladimir Putin accuses Western elites of trying to disrupt a diplomatic breakthrough.
We live in a democratic society where it's innocent until proven guilty, and I think my brother and I are largely misunderstood.
Controversial influencer Andrew Tate faces accusations in the UK and Romania, lands back in the United States after a travel ban was lifted. The first phase of the Gaza ceasefire ends as an investigation into the October the 7th attacks finds there was a complete failure of Israeli security.
All right, plus guys here. Get your hands on your head, get off the bar and get on the wall.
Gene Hackman, double Oscar winner and one of Hollywood's most acclaimed actors, and his wife found dead at home along with one of their dogs.
Need hosting that works with your business?
And in sport, Manchester City are the subject of a complaint over EU competition law. Hello, a very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us here on Sky.
This is Asia Now.
Good afternoon. It's 12 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 9:30 New Delhi, and 11 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Alekia Silveraji. Let's have a look at the headlines. U.S. President Donald Trump says 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico are on track to take effect on Tuesday, along with a new 10% duty on China. The move likely to deepen his fight with America's largest trading partners. Mr. Trump's tariff confirmation and prospects of additional levies on Chinese imports weighing on investor sentiment in Asia Pacific. Key regional indices seeing deep losses on the final trading day of the week. And Thai Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra set to visit the country's border with Cambodia as part of ongoing efforts to eliminate scam operations.
Good morning. Is it a new dawn for UK-US relations?
Sir Keir Starmer impresses in Washington as President Trump backs the Chagos deal and tells the Prime Minister that a great trade agreement is on the cards.
I think there's a very good chance that in the case of these two great friendly countries, I think we could very well end up with a real trade deal where the tariffs wouldn't be necessary.
Well, the president also said he'd support Britain in their Ukraine peacekeeping mission as he batted away comments over calling Zelensky a dictator.
I still think that Zelensky is a dictator.
Did I say that? I can't believe I said that. Next question.
A letter from His Majesty the King. It's an invitation for a second state visit.
In that historic move, Sir Keir Starmer presents Trump with an invitation from King Charles.
The meeting didn't come without a hiccup as Vice President Vance and the Prime Minister clashed over free speech.
There have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time in the United Kingdom.
Is Reform UK election ready? Well, a shock new opinion poll says the party would win both the most seats and the most votes if there were a general election tomorrow.
Well, this comes as the party unveiled former professional boxer and Olympic gold medalist Luke Campbell as their candidate for the first Hull and East Yorkshire mayoral election in May.
BBC has apologised for the significant and damaging mistakes they made in their Gaza documentary.
The rebirth of the North. Angela Rayner will outline her plans for a total rewiring of government power.
Prince William's mission to tackle homelessness continues with a new £50 million partnership with Lloyds.
And two Yorkshire farmers welcome a slight...
Africa News. The news.
After an explosion went off in the midst of an M23 rally in the DRC, dozens have been wounded and 11 killed, according to rebel leaders. The incident unfolded in eastern Congo city of Bukavu. The head of the Congo River Alliance, which includes the M23 rebels, stated that the perpetrator was among the dead.
Je voudrais vous donner ici le premier bilan que nous avons.
I would like to give you here the first assessment that we have, which is that the attack caused 11 deaths, including a woman. Verification is in progress.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa expressed his desire on Thursday to negotiate with US President Donald Trump in order to address ongoing tensions regarding his nation's land policy and the genocide case against Israel at the World Court. This comes after Trump issued an executive order earlier this month that cut US financial aid to South Africa, criticizing the country's approach to land reform and its stance in the International Court of Justice case involving a close US ally. During a conference hosted by Goldman Sachs in Johannesburg, Ramaphosa mentioned his intention to allow time for the situation to stabilize following the executive order. He emphasized that his ultimate aim is to travel to Washington to improve bilateral relations. While South Africa does not heavily rely on US aid, there are concerns that its preferential trade status under the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, could be jeopardized with Trump in office.
Somalia's efforts to counter improvised explosive device IED threats
took a significant step forward with the handover of specialized equipment to the country's security forces. The move comes as Somalia prepares for the eventual withdrawal of African Union forces.
Given the nature of the IED threat here in Somalia, it's essential that we sustain the capabilities of the national security forces, and particularly so now that we're thinking about the eventual and gradual withdrawal of the AU forces.
The equipment provided include vehicles, medical supplies, training kits, route search gear, and explosive ordnance disposal tools. Alongside the delivery, 51 Somali National Army personnel completed specialized training in IED clearance and disposal. We need more training and equipment because we are engaged in a bitter war with our enemy, who uses mines on the roads as a weapon of choice. The mines slow us down, and if we can overcome them, we'll be able to liberate more areas. In 2023 alone, IED attacks resulted in over 1,400 casualties, and UN-trained teams have achieved a 70% success rate in neutralizing devices.
Celebrations in Khan Yunis on Thursday morning as buses carrying hundreds of freed Palestinian prisoners arrived in the Gaza Strip city. They were welcomed by family and friends as one man stepped off the bus, threw down his Israeli prison service t-shirt and stamped on it. Among the detainees were hundreds arrested in the enclave on suspicion of militancy following the October 2023 attack on southern Israel and held for months without charge. Their release came after Hamas earlier handed over the bodies of 4 Israeli hostages to the Red Cross. Israel had delayed releasing the over 600 prisoners since Saturday in protest against what it described as the cruel treatment of hostages during their handover by the militant group. Hamas called the delay a serious violation of the ceasefire and said talks on a second phase were not possible until they were freed. The latest handovers complete both sides' obligations under the first phase of the fragile truce, which ends this week. The fate of the next phase remains unclear.
Thank you very much for giving time to Amir Shekel 5858. I am Amir Shekel. Have a good life. Bye-bye.